Hey everybody, Ben here. Thanks for clicking on the video and showing up for yourself every day. So, Artemis came through, and at the time I wasn't very up to date on her. And after learning about her, I'm a bit confused why she would have picked me. There's a lot to go through. It may not all resonate, but I feel like it paints the picture, it puts the story together. And if you already know, sorry, but this is just how we're going through it. So earlier in the week, I was just clearing my energy, and somebody wanted to come through. So I sat down, and I was in the woods, and there was like this dog, like right in my face, just barking, bark, bark, bark. And then I wasn't scared or anything. I was just okay. And it kind of felt like it was almost like licking me during the barking. And then I smiled, and it just kind of cowered down and ran off. Sat there for a bit, wondering, what's going on. And I asked, who's here? And I heard Cynthia. And it gave off like this Greek undertone, or Greece, I should say. And I heard the word dogma. So at that point, when we look up dogma in Greek, it means an opinion or belief. While, I think nowadays it's more of a principle, it's set in stone. And uh, Cynthia was a name given to those born, what's it called? Women from Cynthus. Probably said that wrong. Which Artemis was born on Mount Cynthus. Before I go any farther, if anybody embodies a lot of her energy or her qualities, please have an open mind. Obviously, I'm a male, and if you embody some of those qualities, you probably or very well possibly despise men or me in general for something that may have taken place in the past. Just here transmitting a message of what came through and what we put together here. And I really think the whole point of healing is to have an open mind and brainstorm, bounce ideas around to get to an epiphany, maybe, to get through something. So please do have an open mind with that. What did come through at one point was occult knowledge, which we'll look at as it's just hidden knowledge. Sometimes that word gets a bad term like darkness. And darkness in general, like a lot of knowledge is found in the darkness, which also is demonized in a way that it's our, if we look at it as our shadow, we learn a lot about ourselves in that space. And of course, if we went in there and we learned all these things about ourselves and we healed ourselves, we'd be in a lot different position than the rest of the world, stuck in materialism, misery, and depressive cycles. So, you know, going in there and looking around obviously will lead to a lot of differences for a lot of different people. I did hear again set in stone, impossible to change or difficult to change, which once we get into that will make a little bit more sense of experiences that have molded us. At that time, I had this image. I was taken to an older movie that it's called A Little Princess. I think, yeah. It's it's a movie about a girl that has to go to a boarding school. She doesn't have a mother because her father's going to war, and in that she tells a story, a little fairy tale, if you will. And the image that I got was this demon shot 10 arrows into the air, and those 10 arrows came down and created a circle around this prince, and it let off this poison. So, to explain that fairy tale a little bit better, there was a prince and a princess, and the princess saw a deer suffering in the woods and asked the prince to go, help it. So he drew a circle in the sand and said, "Don't leave the circle, you'll be protected." And he went off to go help the deer. A lot of time passed, and she heard a crying in the woods for help. And she thought it was him, so she left the circle. And she was, navigating through the forest and came along a beggar man. She didn't have any money, but she gave him her bracelet or necklace or something like that. And the second it touched his hands, he turned into a 10-headed demon, took her off to his lair or his castle with the purpose to marry her, make her his wife. Which, here at that point we can look at, well, I'll get into that. I'll finish the story here a bit. So anyway, the princess was, staring out of her tower, longing for her prince, how normal fairy tales go. And at this point, he was sneaking up, and the demon saw him and shot these 10 arrows, which had poison in them. And it created the circle around him and unleashed the poison, and he perished at that point. So, horrible ending, but then a deer came along and laid down next to the prince and gave the deer gave his life to the prince. So then I wanted to talk about the beggar. This, which then turned into the demon, this resonated, or what got highlighted was energies that body jump or shapeshift, and that may be assigned to us or follow us around. And we'll be like, well, you'll see it in everything. It might just be romantic relationships. Every person we're with, it pops up in there, and it's really hitting an insecurity of us or a weakness. And say we stop dating, and then you see it in work colleagues, it'll pop up. So you get rid of that, or like family, it'll pop up. And then friends, and then just randomly in public, once you start to see what it is, this energy, or this demon, however you want to look at it, it can't be unseen then at that point. And if we look at this as magic, let's just say we're at a magic show, and the show is really great. It's captivating our attention, and it's like, wow, how is that possible? And then you learn the trick, and it's like, oh, well, now it's not exciting anymore. This is kind of how magic works in the end, is once it's taking place or what it is, the mask is off, the facade is gone, it doesn't work anymore. So this energy, let's say it's hitting a certain insecurity, and it starts in these relationships, and I'm done with relationships, and now it's in work. You work through this, and until you see what it is, then it's gone. But this may just, I believe that sometimes they're assigned to us, and it's going to follow us. How could it not be? It's something we're supposed to heal, and it's aggravating this insecurity, which, how we're accepting it emotionally, like it hurts, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, however we may look at it. Some are more drastic than others, but it's here to propel us out of it, to move us forward. We can look at it in the negative sense, and it is. I get it, no matter what took place. But it's there, and once we see it, the magic is over. The game is over. The trick is up. We know what it is. And then, obviously, okay, it's trying to show me something, and I'm going to heal that inside of me. What ends next? What did come through then after this whole imagery? The beast can be broken. The deer gave to a good heart. There is balance to all of this. And the easiest way to look at balance is look at one of those old scales. And for make it easy purposes, let's just say salt or grains of sand or a grain of salt. And we have equal amounts. So let's just say we have 100 granules. And obviously if we had 50 on each side, it's going to be perfectly balanced. We could look at every negative experience we had, and we take that and we keep putting them over here, and now that's heavier than this one, and that's unstable. It has to balance out. You could also look at this as, trying to be a good person. Well, I do all these good things, and you can put all of them over, on this side. You're like, when is it going to come back to me? It always balances out. It can't be unstable, if you will. We always get to this balancing point. But these blocks or experiences that we're having, say it's this energy, we're going to stay unbalanced until we see the trick. We heal the wound or whatever it may be. So briefly on Artemis, is the goddess of the hunt, wilderness in general. Wild animals, childbirth, chastity, and they also mention the moon. When we look at the hunt, I'm going to explain a bit about her and kind of what her experiences were in bringing her to this place. But I don't want to forget this part of when we're looking at the hunt, it is, we are the predator searching prey, and this can be in a good situation or a bad situation. If we, persistence and patience for a victory, but if it's a goal or something we truly do want versus like stalker like vibes. Her experience, I'll get into that. We'll hold off on that right now. So she was born on Delos, an island that was made because her mother at the time was banished from all land. Her father was Zeus, and he was with another woman at that time. I believe her name is Hera, and she's probably a very jealous woman, and banished her mother, Leto, from to give birth on land. So an island was created to take place. Obviously, they're all gods, so things are a bit different for them. Artemis was the first one out. Apollo was her twin. And it was a very, what's the right word? Bad experience, it appeared. It was very gory experience. Seeing her mother, the fluids, the pain, tearing and ripping, and I think she really embodied that to an extent. Obviously, when she was born, she evolved and helped her mother deliver Apollo then at that point. Later on, they tended to their mother and cared for her, and then a python came, after them, more or less after Leto, because the other woman wanted her gone, just very jealous. They defeated I shouldn't say defeated, they knocked the python down for a bit. And at that point, they moved on to Olympus, and she began to feel not at home. While Apollo really liked the limelight and being important and in the flash and all this kind of stuff. And she really liked the solitude. She was also experiencing a lot of lustful behavior, or just looking like a piece of meat at that point. She later, there's a lot more going on. I'm just trying to paraphrase here. She later went off to the woods, to the wilderness, and took on purity to stay pure. And she did seem to carry a very negative feeling towards men in general. If we look at her father, just having to be with another woman, very in the flesh, lustful in that aspect. Also her mother, the painful experience of birth and being all alone, being banished to an island, if you will. You're just very worthless, treated poorly. And I think at that time in society, and through most of society, and possibly even still now, maybe feeling viewed this way, that less than, worthless, only being looked at for the flesh aspect, a lot of these characteristics. So in the woods, she got very interested in hunting and the animals. Now granted, protector of animals, but takes animals through hunting in a proper way, if you will. She also governs at this point is she's very strong in purity, but she's also a punisher. And if we look at what she's punishing, it is multiple things, but it does have a resemblance of purity and male behavior with women or hurting them. I think I made a note of, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, just a guy saw her bathing once. Obviously, she was naked in the woods, and she turned him into a deer, and his hunting dogs devoured him. Then at that point, she was very, which I'm not saying it was okay. I'm sure it was an accident, but I don't know the full story. Then we got to another story with a poisoned arrow. So there was a great hunter that she was, I mean, I should say there's multiple stories, but this is the one that came to me. Orion was a great hunter and a companion of hers. And at one point he said that he could kill all creatures, and that upset Gaia. And Apollo had a problem with him, possibly due to jealousy, or trying to protect his sister from Orion. So Gaia and Apollo came up with an idea to take him out. So Gaia made a very strong poison from a scorpion, and they put that on an arrow. Apollo came up to her and kind of was, testing her strength or her pride. And there was a little dot way out in the ocean, and said, "Oh, I bet you can't hit that. You're not that good." Something like that. And she took the arrow from him and shot it, not knowing who it was, what it was. It didn't matter. It was, "You're not going to tell me that I can't do something," or, "Who are you to insult me?" And that poisoned arrow was shot by her, and actually it was Orion. At that point, the poison took over and killed him. Later, the story is that he was put in the stars along with Scorpius, and that's how that came about. So, did pride lead to a loss? What led to this loss? This poisonous arrow, without even thinking it through. She didn't know who it was. It didn't matter. It just was acted on. Big thing is women leaving prey to become the predator. And we can see this. I have a couple notes and we'll talk a bit later. Risking the lust of another to change me. Carrying her mother's pain. Fallen angels or gods, etc. Experimenting in the flesh. Coming here as pure, higher beings, and falling into temptation and this lust. Going to hold off. I'm going to talk about women leaving prey to become predators. So, again, please have open minds. I'm just brainstorming here. Let's look at, using the words hot or sexy versus beautiful and pretty. When I hear sexy or hot, I am looking at that is of the flesh, that is of the body, that is the skin, that is nothing inside, that is nothing of the person, their soul. It is nothing. It's not beautiful. It's not pretty. Also, let's look at way people dress. It is so exposed at this point that there is what's being presented, and I don't know why. Is this for attention? Is it for comfort? Is it for what? But if someone makes a pass, and now we're upset? Why are you exposing yourself this way? And that doesn't help everyone else. Everything is led to the flesh. It really is. If you look at anything, it's all in the flesh. Where is the true inner beauty or essence of the individual? We get in also reserving our sacral chakra energy, when that's creativity and sexual energy. Now, obviously, if we connect it in that way, there's a transfer of energy, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. You can be drained of that energy or take energy. And if it's on a good way, obviously there's going to be a great connection and a bond and a significant uplift. This can happen energetically as well. If we're putting our focus, our intention, say I'm focusing on a woman that is openly dressed, and I'm sending all that energy there. Well, technically, I'm giving my energy away, but at the same time, I am creating this image of this person that it's like a projection that inevitably they're going to start to feel. And then that's just going to be drawn from and drawn from and drawn from as well, like as her, the individual. We could look at this as, stuff online that really, videotapes this kind of behavior. And that is, I couldn't imagine what those people's energies are like. I mean, it's just there's so much going into it, the projections, and it's very disturbing to think about. But if we think about that, she really goes into, being a piece of meat and feeling these energies that probably are being projected just the way I expressed it. You know, it's it's not oh, this person's so beautiful, they're so smart. It is being projected out of, I want to do things with them, and uh, it's not helping. Society's not helping, and I can't stop that. What we can do is reverse things and look at it differently. Then we'll talk about, the pursuit of hunting, the good and the bad. Say I've met several women that were like very dedicated and uh, would stick with something, to get something done. So, to the, how do I want to say this? Uh, they're very patient. They kept working at getting this done and doing it right, very consistent. And that is found, during hunting. Oh, it's here and I'm going to shoot, but oh, it ran off. And you keep coming back, you keep trying, you keep putting this effort in. But we could also look at this in a bad way of, pursuing something as stalking, for instance. And that is a negative aspect of it. So, back to the poison arrow. I know I touched on a lot of different things. Some of the things I felt were important to say. Not everything's going to fit, and that's okay. But back to the poison arrow. We have two different stories of poison arrow, and they both have a great point. There's also, something from Buddhism, I believe, that touches on, say I was shot with a poison arrow, and instead I'm asking, who shot it, where did it come from, which direction, what time. I'm asking all these questions, and the arrow's still in me. And the response is, focus on the actual problem to alleviate pain. We could have liberation if we just deal with the problem. Maybe we did something wrong that we're afraid to deal with or to come forward about. Or maybe we know what we're supposed to do and we're afraid of the repercussions, leaving something or walking away from something or stepping into something. She really focuses on self-empowerment and a no bullshit kind of thing. But, I felt like eggshells writing all this because it's pretty powerful, and I really don't care to be in it because I'm on thin ice right now. Just from what I've heard about her, that it is, anything I do can be wrong. She's very one-minded and rigid in this mindset, and even though I wouldn't mean anything, it could be taken the wrong way. Sorry guys, I dropped the cards. Our first card is the Emperor, Chaos, abuse of power, authority figure abusing power. Maybe we're abusing power. Very rigid in our ways. This energy could be something we're experiencing external or internal. When we look back on Artemis, you can see some of these things taking place. Maybe we're embodying it, or something external or something took place in the past that has molded us in this way. Next card is Ten of Cups reversed, neglected bonds, broken home, toxic environments. Maybe this is where it took place. Maybe this is what we're dealing with. Maybe we're creating it due to our rigidness and our instability and our working out of a wound, and we're creating this environment for us and our family. The world reversed, unfinished, open cycles. Looking at this energy I spoke of before that may be popping up in individuals around us, and it just keeps continuing. It's an open cycle until we close that cycle, until we see it for what it is. Then we can close the cycle, heal, and move forward. Seven of Swords, conviction, standing up for what it is that we believe in, having the courage to follow through with it as well, standing up for ourselves, however that may look like. Artemis is very, very straightforward about that. No bullshit. And she doesn't really look at repercussions either when she does it. Our last card, Six of Cups reversed, release, letting go of the past. I know the past molded us, and those experiences aren't pleasant. I'm not saying what took place was okay or whatever it may be, but it's our choice to carry that. And if we want to allow it to identify us, that is up to us. But there's another way, and that's liberation or freedom, whatever that may look like in your life. Finding out what it is, healing that wound, allowing it to propel us forward, utilizing it, not allowing it to imprison us. Probably leave it there, guys. I know I was a bit all over the place. For some reason, I felt like some of the stuff was important, so that's why I talked about it. And with that, I'll leave it there. If it resonated, feel free to like or comment. Be kind, and we'll talk to you later. See ya.